What if the chaotic, conspiratorial reality that we live in wasn't an accident, but the direct result of a deliberate, decades-long psychological operation designed to blow up the collective mind? An operation that began, of all places, as a joke in a California bowling alley. That operation was called OMF, or Operation Mind, and it is the birthplace of the Memetic Warfare that now defines our world. Welcome to Hidden America, where magic meets cybernetics, and the code behind reality reveals itself. In the late 1950s, two friends, Greg Hill and Kerry Thornley, founded Discordianism, a religion disguised as a joke, or more properly, a joke disguised as a religion. These were not serious gurus. They were your merry group of pranksters. Their holy text, the Principia Discordia, worshipped Eris, the Greek goddess of chaos and discord. But their core insight was anything but a joke. It was profound. Chaos and order are creative forces that can both be manipulated, and human societies are addicted to order. We crave narratives, structure, and clear-cut enemies. This need for order makes us easy to manipulate and control. So they devised a remedy, a religion that celebrated nonsense, contradiction, and creative chaos. The goal was to break the rigid brain curtains of conventional thought, and from this philosophical playground emerged their most potent weapon, OMF. OMF was a concerted effort to spread enlightened confusion, but in truth, it was a cultural virus. Its methods were simple yet brilliant. Flood the culture with absurd, contradictory, and paranoid information that people would be forced to question the nature of reality itself. And this is exactly what it sounds like, a form of mass-scale gaslighting. But to them, it was for a noble cause, awakening the populace. Now, the central pillar of OMF was the Bavarian Illuminati. Discordians turned the Bavarian Illuminati into a hypersigil where the masses could project their blame and frustration onto this chosen sigil. The historical Illuminati, found in 1776, was a real Enlightenment-era esoteric order, but extremely short-lived. But for the Discordians, the Adam Weishaupt-led Illuminati was the perfect empty vessel. They were obscure enough to be mysterious, but just famous enough to be plausible. The directive of OMF was simple yet total. Blame everything on the Illuminati. It was simple. A plane crashed. It was an Illuminati operation. The crooked politician became an Illuminati puppet. A strange weather pattern? This was Illuminati weather manipulation. The genius of this was its sheer absurdity, blended with just a sliver of possibility. It didn't matter if it was true. What mattered was the effect. In 1975, the operation went mainstream. Two writers, Robert Anton Wilson and Robert Shea, were working at Playboy magazine, reading through thousands of letters from conspiracy theorists. Inspired by the Discordian philosophy in OMF, they decided to weave every conspiracy they encountered into one grand, unfalsifiable, and deliberately ridiculous narrative. The result was the Illuminatus Trilogy. This sprawling work of guerrilla ontology didn't just feature the Illuminati. It presented a world where they were behind everything, locked in a 23,000-year war with the anarchic Discordians. The book was a literary version of OMF. Wilson and Shea weren't trying to convince you the Illuminati were real. They were demonstrating how any narrative, if internalized, can become a person's reality. This was the Big Bang of modern conspiracy culture. The Illuminatus Trilogy provided the template. It took niche, seemingly disconnected theories like JFK, UFOs, the Kennedy assassinations, infused them into a single, sprawling, meta-narrative of hidden control. It gave a generation of budding cynics a framework, a language, and a sense of secret knowledge. But this was more than just storytelling. It was the unintended birth of a new magical technology. The Discordians and Robert Anton Wilson had stumbled upon the principles of chaos magic. Chaos magic is the punk rock of the occult. It throws out centuries of rigid ritual. Its core axiom is brutally pragmatic. Belief is a tool. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. A chaos magician doesn't become a Buddhist. They use Buddhist beliefs to achieve a specific result, then discard them. The only truth is what works. OMF was chaos magic applied to society. The spell was the Illuminati conspiracy. The magical act was spreading it through flyers, books, and conversation. The result was the creation of a shared belief, an egregore, a powerful thought form born from collective belief that began to genuinely influence world events by influencing the minds of those who believed in it. And if you are enjoying this video, hit that like button, drop a comment. It really helps the visibility of the video. Now let's get back to the video, because this brings us to the modern battlefield, Memetic Warfare. Memetic Warfare turned the principles of chaos magic into a global operating system. The internet was simply a breeding ground for OMF. It was a testing ground, a neutral playground where belief could be used as a tool. As I have mentioned in prior videos, the internet is the magical battlefield of the 21st century, and memes are the new weapons. But I still don't think everyone fully understands exactly what memes truly are and why they are so powerful. A meme is the weaponization of thought, a psychic virus encoded in images, language, rhythm, and emotional charge. Richard Dawkins described memes as a unit of cultural information that acts like a virus, ideas that replicate and evolve like DNA. He had no idea he was outlining the mechanics of memetic warfare. OMF was a meme before memes existed. Every meme carries a symbol. This is the visual glyph, the face, the archetype. Every meme carries an emotion, the payload, the humor, disgust, awe, contempt, fear, irony, or euphoria. Each emotion is the payload. Every meme carries a script. This is the worldview, the behavior, or interpretation it is meant to normalize. When people remix, repost, or parody a meme, they are charging it with emotional energy. This is the exact same way chaos magicians charge a sigil through obsession, desire, or attention. The more eyes it reaches, the more belief and emotion it absorbs. A meme is a living idea, evolving to bypass defenses and implant new interpretive lenses. But memes did not begin on the internet. They are not just simply funny images. And the intelligence communities recognized this early. As early as the 1980s, the US intelligence community had been studying memes, idea contagions, symbolic warfare, psychological vectors, and narrative viruses. Long before the word meme entered pop culture lexicon, agencies like the CIA, DARPA, NSA, and Army psyop units recognized something ancient. A meme is a weapon disguised as a joke, an idea that infects, a symbol that replicates, a story that conquers without armies. Long before the first internet meme, the intelligence agency were running memetic operations. Within a few years, analysts and private contractors began producing internal research on cognitive contagions, semiotic warfare, group influence dynamics, narrative penetration vectors, behavioral steering through memetic payloads. They weren't using internet language. They were studying pure memetics, stripped to its core components: symbol, mind, spread. Well before the public had any concept of viral content, the intelligence community realized this concept was much too powerful to ignore. They correctly identified that an idea that spreads faster than truth can overpower nations faster than armies. They saw what OMF was able to do in a short period of time. So of course, they wanted to weaponize it. Quietly, with virtually no public reporting, DARPA began narrative influence studies in the mid-80s. They analyzed how stories anchor themselves inside culture, how symbols acquire emotional payloads, how group identity can be reshaped by memes. They studied what makes certain ideas spread explosively, how virality can be mathematically modeled. This was decades before social media even existed. These were proto-meme studies, memetics before the internet. DARPA began treating memes like they were biological organisms, informational parasites, literal mind-infecting entities. In other words, memes were considered metaphoric demons. This was exactly the language occultists have been using for centuries. The U.S. Army's psyop community, psyop stands for Psychological Operations. This was the first branch to truly industrialize memetic warfare. The 1980s psyop manuals described symbolic payloads, rumor cascades, contagious narratives, identity-shaping slogans, and effect-driven information weapons. This was memetic engineering long before social media. PSYOP operatives understood that a slogan can demoralize an army, a rumor can collapse a government, a symbol can make a population act against its own interests, a joke can destroy the legitimacy of a leader more effectively than bullets. Memes weren't just funny, they were lethal. Thus, the first memetic war began, and most still don't recognize it as such. Western academics teach the Cold War like it was all nukes, spies, and covert operations. But to the intelligence agencies, the Cold War was increasingly about narrative supremacy, cultural infiltration, psychological infection, and ideological virality. The KGB used active measures like forged documents, rumors, conspiracy networks, cultural subversion, memetic injection into enemy nations. So the CIA countered with symbolic anchors, narrative counter-infections, rumor disruption tactics, underground propaganda pipelines, and memetic reinforcement strategies. This was truly the first memetic war. This was memetic warfare before the word existed. And if you are enjoying this video and you'd like to check out some videos that are too spicy for YouTube, check out my Patreon. I just dropped a video on the occult origins of vampires and the occult history of cryptocurrency last week. Patreon-only videos dropped weekly, and over 500 posts are archived. I hope to see you there. When the field of memetics formally emerged in the 90s, intelligence agencies were some of its earliest and quietest funders. Think tanks and private contractors received funding to study some key concepts like memetic evolution, survival advantage of specific idea types, competitive memetic ecosystems, and meme-driven group formation. They studied the fitness landscape of narratives and, most importantly, how belief systems behave like mind viruses. Much of this research appears academic, but the results were applied directly to counterterrorism, foreign influence operations, cultural psyops, political destabilization programs, and domestic opinion-shaping initiatives, memetics became the backbone of informational warfare. After 9/11, the intelligence agencies realized something crucial. Terror propaganda functions like a memetic organism. It spreads through ideas, not armies. Thus, the Pentagon began to study and to track enemy propaganda. They studied how memes recruit, radicalize, create identity, override personal morality, and replicate inside cultural ecosystems. This was a memetic counterinsurgency, and the battlefield was now fully digital. By the 2010s, online meme culture exploded, and this didn't surprise the intelligence agencies. They had been preparing for it for decades, but they didn't anticipate how quickly it would happen. Memes became election weapons, reputation bombs, identity hacks, psychological contagions, decentralized psyops, and AI-driven narrative storms. Suddenly, anyone with a phone could do what only psyop units used to be able to do. Memetic warfare had become democratized and uncontrollable. Thus, the government agencies doubled down on their own psychological operations through covert influence operations on social media, real-time memetic battlefield analysis, and narrative inoculation programs. Memes were now seen as weapons of mass influence, and influence is everything. Memetic warfare became official military doctrine. NATO, the US Army, and the UK MOD explicitly state memes can shape public behavior, destabilize nations, influence elections, and break down social cohesion. Memes were correctly identified as psychological weapons. The military calls this cognitive and narrative warfare, information operations, and memetic influence campaigns. The conspiratorial culture that spawned from OMF now became official policy. You see, occultists always understood that signs and symbols rule the world. Symbols have power, and ideas can possess minds. They understood that thought forms can act independently, and sigils are self-replicating spells. Memetics is simply the scientific vocabulary for ancient magical truths. As Aleister Crowley said, science is always rediscovering some old magical knowledge and claiming it as new. In truth, a meme is a spirit animated by human attention. It is a self-replicating psychological entity. It is a programmable cognitive weapon that alters mass perception in predictable ways. So you might ask, what makes a good meme? How can you weaponize a thought form to change reality? First is the hook. It must bypass the critical mind. This is done with humor, outrage, fear, or a sense of belonging. Second is the replicator. It must be easy to copy and share. Simple visuals, catchy slogans. Third is the payload. This is the underlying idea or emotion you want to implant. It could be distrust of institutions, the glorification of a leader, or a call to action. Fourth is the feedback loop. The meme must create a reality distortion field. When people see others sharing it, it gains validity. And this is hyperstition in action, a fiction that makes itself real. And truly, understanding hyperstition is the final piece in understanding memetic warfare. It's when a fictional concept creates a feedback loop with reality, forcing itself into existence. A prediction, when repeated and amplified through memetic warfare, can lead millions to believe in it, which in turn leads them to act as if it were true, thereby altering the political landscape forever. The fiction becomes a fact through the power of belief and action. Internet cults, NPCs, Alternative reality games, conspiracy culture, these are all direct descendants of OMF. The simulation isn't glitching, it's responding. So what began as OMF, a philosophical prank to free people from mental cages, mutated into the very architecture of conspiracy culture and memetic warfare itself. The Discordians sought to expose the illusion of control, but in doing so, they handed the keys to the illusion to everyone. The operation was a success, but not in the way the creators intended. The prank became the architecture of conspiracy culture. Then it transformed into the blueprint of intelligence agencies. Then it mutated into the operating system of the internet. Exactly how a meme is supposed to. Now belief has been weaponized. Narrative are armies, and memes are psychological weapons, and reality is up for grabs. So the true question is not who's behind the conspiracy. The Discordian question is deeper. Does it even matter, as long as the show is compelling?